The year was 1620, 13 years after Jamestown barely survived. England was changing. Religion divided the nation. The king demanded loyalty to the Church of England, and for some believers, compromise was impossible. They wanted something radical. They wanted freedom to worship in their own way. And so, a small group made a dangerous decision. They would leave everything behind. Who were the Pilgrims? The people we call the Pilgrims were known as Separatists. They believed the Church of England was too corrupt. They wanted to separate completely and build a pure Christian community. Because of their beliefs, they faced persecution. So first, they fled to the Netherlands. There, they found religious freedom. But they worried their children were losing English culture and identity. So they made an even bolder choice. They would sail to the New World. The Mayflower Voyage. In September 1620, 102 passengers boarded a small ship called the Mayflower. Families, children, farmers, carpenters, not wealthy adventurers like many Jamestown settlers. These were families seeking a new beginning. The Atlantic crossing was harsh. Storms battered the ship. Waves crashed over the deck. The journey lasted more than 2 months. Cold, wet, crowded. One passenger died at sea, but finally, land appeared. Arrival in an unfamiliar land. The Pilgrims had intended to settle near Virginia. Instead, storms pushed them far north. They landed in what is now Massachusetts. It was November. Winter was coming, and they were unprepared. Before stepping ashore, the men signed an agreement to board the ship. It became known as the Mayflower Compact. It was a simple but powerful document. It declared that they would create laws together and govern themselves for the good of the colony. It was one of the first steps towards self-government in America. The first winter. The winter of 1620 to 1621 was devastating. They built crude shelters. Food supplies were limited. Disease spread quickly in the cold, crowded conditions. By spring, nearly half of the settlers had died. Mothers, fathers, children. The colony stood on the edge of collapse, just like Jamestown years earlier. And once again, survival would depend on Native Americans. The Wampanoag and Squanto. The land they had settled was not empty. It belonged to the Wampanoag people, led by Chief Massasoit. Years earlier, European diseases had devastated nearby tribes. The Pilgrims had unknowingly settled in a village abandoned after an epidemic. In March 1621, a Native American man walked into the settlement and greeted them in English. His name was Samoset. Soon after, another man arrived. His name was Squanto. Squanto spoke fluent English because he had previously been kidnapped, taken to Europe, and later returned. He became the Pilgrims' interpreter and guide. He taught them how to plant corn using fish as fertilizer, catch local fish, harvest native plants, and survive in the New England climate. Without this help, Plymouth likely would have failed. A fragile alliance. In 1621, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag formed a peace agreement. They promised to defend one another. This alliance helped the colony stabilize. That fall, after a successful harvest, the Pilgrims held a 3-day feast. The Wampanoag attended. This event is often remembered today as the first Thanksgiving. But it was not yet a national holiday. It was a fragile moment of cooperation in a much larger and complicated history. Life in Plymouth Colony. Unlike Jamestown, Plymouth was not built for profit. It was built for faith and community. Families worked small farms.
Church life was central. Education mattered. They wanted everyone to read the Bible. Life was still difficult. Harsh winters, limited supplies, constant uncertainty. But Plymouth slowly grew. More settlers arrived. Homes replaced tents. Fields expanded. What began as a desperate experiment became a permanent colony. Long-term impact. Plymouth Colony was small compared to future colonies, but its influence was large. It strengthened the idea of self-government, religious motivation in colonization, and community-based settlements. Over time, Plymouth merged with the larger Massachusetts Bay Colony, but the story of the Pilgrims remained powerful in American memory. They became symbols of courage, faith, and determination, though the reality was more complex. Their survival depended deeply on Native American assistance, and future generations would not always maintain the peace that began in 1621. A new chapter in America's story. By the 1620s, England now had two successful footholds in North America: Jamestown in the south, Plymouth in the north. Both had nearly failed. Both survived with indigenous help. Both would grow into something much larger than their founders imagined. The seeds of America were being planted, in struggle, in faith, in conflict, and in hope.